Prop Chat. Ultimate insights of trading with Sabio.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Prop Chat, the podcast where we dive into trading minds and extract gold. Today's guest is a master of strategy, both human and machine, with over 12 years of experience and a track record managing trades up to £30 million. Adam Harris is a seasoned forex trader known for his precision in technical analysis. He's a partner at Sabio, the creator of various educational products and a huge trading mastermind. Trading and investing is actually Adam's second career after building and selling a successful post-production film and television company back in 2008. For a brief time after that, he consulted in the northern Scottish oil industry as a brand manager and then settled down in London to begin his journey as a technical trader and investor in late 2009. He's an active investor in global stocks and sees portfolio management as a viable opportunity for educated individuals. Adam is also a chief market analyst for a few select brokerage firms around the world and, most importantly, provides high-level analysis for some of the world's most respected exchanges like Nadex, Fianco Bank, TradeStation, NinjaTrader, the ICE Exchange, and the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, among others. He's looking forward to bringing his strong technical perspective and years of real-world trading on the markets to Sabio Trade's loyal customers. So today, we're asking him, how do you find the trading strategy that actually fits you? So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Adam Harris. Hello, Adam. First of all, I want to thank you for accepting our invitation and becoming a guest here on our podcast. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you very much, and it's great to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me and including me. Thank you.
Great, thanks. So before we dive into strategies and systems, I want to set the mood with a quick, fun little game that'll test your market instincts. It's called Hot or Not. Here's how it works. I'll name an asset or, trading idea, and you give me your gut reaction. So, hot, as in, like you're into it and you'd buy it or trade it, or not, as in, you'd avoid it. And you can add a quick comment if you'd like to. So, if you're ready, we can start.
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right, here we go. The first one, Bitcoin.
Bitcoin, I want to say hot. I think it's gaining more institutional legitimacy. It's still speculative, but it has definitely become a macro asset now.
All right. Another one, let's say meme coins.
Not. Zero kind of edge, zero fundamentals, very speculative, more of a game of musical chairs than trading.
All right, let's go some classic. USD JPY.
Dollar yen, hot. It's consolidating at the moment, but it's structurally bullish with central bank demand and inflation in the mix. And it's been a consistent performer for the last few years.
Mm-hmm. So it's hot, right?
It's hot. Sorry,
All
that's
right.
hot.
Number 4, let's see gold.
Hot. It's also consolidating, at the moment, like I said, but it's looking nice and bullish. What I should have said about the dollar yen one is, that's one of the clearest trending pairs over the past year. Great for trend followers. Gold at the moment, this is just guarding against inflation. It is taking a bit of a breather at the moment, but I'm not really sure it's going to come back down for a while.
Mm-hmm. What about Tesla?
Not. And it's tricky to predict its long-term viability. It's too volatile and it's very sentiment-driven for me personally. So I'm not really up for that.
All right. What about cannabis stocks?
I love the idea, but I'm going to say not. So not.
Mm-hmm.
The story doesn't really match the charts. I think it's still too speculative and inconsistent. I think the markets are looking for growth and innovation, and I'm not really sure where that's coming from. So I'm going to say not.
All right. Another one. Let's say U.S. 10-year Treasury bonds.
Hot. I think especially for investors, they are a key macro indicator and they are tradable in this environment.
What about AI startup stocks?
Hot, but selectively. I wouldn't just go all over the place. I think there's quite a few that will flop, and it's tricky to predict which ones will be. It's got a little bit like .com vibes here. But the AI megatrend is real. AI is not going anywhere. So I would look for leadership and maybe technical strength.
But it's still hot, right?
It's still hot. Yes.
All right.
I think it's still finding out. It's still figuring out what it's going to be. But so yeah, I'm going to say hot.
I mean, as of now, as of today, it's hot for you, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And the final one, Chinese tech stocks.
I'm going to say not too much geopolitical and regulatory uncertainty, not enough trend clarity, but in the future, so not today, but I think revisit it in 6 months.
All right, great.
So
Thank you. That was very interesting. Thank you. Great insight, huh? Here's the deal. With Sabio, you can trade all those assets, but with serious capital behind you. So what is prop trading with Sabio? It's performance-based funding, plain and simple. We're talking funded accounts from $20,000 to $650,000 and beyond. So you choose the assets you believe in. We give you the capital to actually make it a career, not just a side hustle on a micro account. And you owe us nothing. Just take our one-step, no time limit assessment, and the funds are yours. So check out sabiotrade.com and start scaling today. So let's go back to the beginning. Let's set this scene for us. What was the world like when you just started trading? What was actually going on in finance back then? What was your first asset?
Yeah, well, my first asset traded as well. So when I was getting into the game, it was still fresh after the global financial crisis. And I remember there was still fears of Greece defaulting. There was still fears of Spain defaulting. There were trade wars also going on back then. There was a lot of that repercussions of that still happening, the aftershocks of that. And QE was the buzzword. Central banks were redefining how the markets moved. I started in equities as well as forex. I sort of started to move more into forex because of the liquidity and the cleaner price action and the technicals. So what was my first asset traded? I think actively was probably euro dollar. I liked the liquidity and the structure. And I mean, it was really the one that was pushed. Back then, forex was the exciting thing to get into. And obviously, euro dollar was everything there. And I also liked the idea that if I had enough screen time, that you could learn to read the market like a language.
May I ask you, what exactly pulled you into the game?
So it's actually my second career. I used to be in the movie business. I was owned a post-production company, so visual effects, animation, motion graphics, and I was pretty good at that. But it was just such long hours and it was very unpredictable. And it was also very, very much kind of skills-based. So it had to be me doing the work per se to doing it. And I was very much attracted to the idea of being someone like a Warren Buffett, who was letting your money work for you kind of thing. And so I wanted to get into the money game. And so I started with the idea of learning how to trade stocks. But forex was the game that was happening back then. And so that was what I did. So I sold my company. And I just made the commitment to figure out how to do this. And I dived into technical analysis. And looking back, that was the best thing. That was the best decision I ever made.
Speaking of movie business, speaking of silver screen industry, if your trading journey were a 3-act movie, what would the titles of each act be?
So Act 1 would be like baptism by fire, right? So learning through making lots of painful mistakes, technical mistakes, but also emotional mistakes, a lot of headspace stuff, trying to figure stuff out, relationship with money stuff. Act 2, system overload. trying every strategy under the sun, all over the place. Don't know what I'm doing wrong. Don't know what I'm doing right. Don't know which strategy works. Don't know which strategy doesn't. All over the place. We're trading with the trend, against the trend, trading the news. Wild West. Act 3, more clarity and conviction, simplifying everything, everything down into a very clean trend following approach. So baptism by fire, Act 1, system overload, Act 2, clarity and conviction in Act 3.
Is there part 4 coming, in your opinion?
I would like to think so. I think part 4 would be a nice conclusion, a nice final act, like a nice, what's the word that they use for it in a TV show, but like a nice wrap up of everything, where I would find myself managing my wealth, much more passive, few hours a day, maybe living on the Mediterranean, and getting the rewards from life that you get from putting the work in that you get from the money. So then the money provides you with the lifestyle that you want. But I'm not young. I don't need to have fast sports cars or anything like that. I'd like to enjoy my days in the sun, with the right people.
In your opinion, what would your younger self recognize the trader that you are today?
Not at all. Not a chance. I think the younger trader. So no, not at all. I think I wasn't alone. I'm not the only person, but I really didn't know where. There was no direction. And now that I know the direction and I know which way you should go, I can't imagine that version of me would ever have been able to find it without help. So I know back then I thought more trades meant more success. Now I know the opposite is often true. Fewer, more selective, more better trades, no pressure, less noise, much more patience, and it pays off.
So the less is actually more, yeah? The less is more.
Yeah.
All right.
Less is more. Take no pressure. Yeah.
That sounds wise. Yeah. Let's get into the craft. The strategy stuff, all these things. First off, what are your personal favorites at the moment?
In terms of strategy or markets?
In terms of strategies.
So one of the things that changed the way I see the markets is when I discovered my mentor, I then realized that it wasn't so much which markets you engage in, it's which market conditions you engage in. So some markets you shouldn't be touching. Some markets are much easier to trade and are much safer. You have fewer losing trades or winning trades. So essentially there's 3 ways you can trade the market, right? You can either trade a range from top to bottom, you can trade with the trend, or you can trade counter trend. So reversion to the mean, or, corrections. And ultimately, focusing on just trading with the trend allows you to really start to eliminate the markets that are a lot more volatile, ones with, where it's a lot more choppy and where it's more difficult to trade that. So the beauty of that, though, is that it frees you to move between the different markets. So you don't just have to be in currencies. You don't just have to, you can look at commodities, you can look at cryptocurrencies, you can look at bonds, you can look at indices, you can look at ETFs, anything you want, as long as it has nice liquidity and a really good trend, that is where you can do it. And so it's the market conditions that really drive it. And that frees you up because it makes it a lot easier for you to find a market that you shouldn't be touching and just go, not for me. Like currently, gold is very choppy right now, but it has been trending incredibly well for the last year. And that's not to say that it won't be trending well next week, but I'm only interested in it when it actually starts moving.
All right, let's fantasize a bit. Let's use our imagination. If a trader sat down with you and said something like, listen, I have no idea what strategy fits me, what would be the first few questions that you'd ask them?
So I would need to know a little bit about them. So I might say to them, for example, are you more comfortable with fast decisions? Do you need a fast-moving environment? Or are you okay with slow, deliberate decisions? I would ask them, do you like structure or do you want freedom? Can you handle drawdowns emotionally, which is a relationship money thing as well?
Sure.
I would ask them, how much time can you realistically give towards trading each day? And then finally, I would ask them, do you want to grow your capital or do you need to generate income? So investing is a much more passive earning, sort of building your wealth kind of exercise. Trading is a much more, I need to generate a primary or secondary source of income every month. And so that would help them identify which way they want to go. But they'd also have to look internally and decide who they want to be.
Okay, let's say that I already made up my mind on my new strategy. What's a test drive that you'd recommend after that? I mean, what should I track beyond just profit loss?
So ultimately, technical analysis is like a pattern recognition game. So you need time to look at the markets to recognize these patterns and identify opportunities. So, you could run it in demo or with a very small live account for 6 to 12 weeks. Obviously, tracking more than just profit and loss. It's a visual activity. So you need to be keeping a record, not just of the numbers, but of what you saw, so that you can feed your brain with good feedback and bad feedback, so that it will rebuild your instincts, so that you learn to recognize certain market conditions will work your way. You'd want to keep track of your average reward to risk. Ideally, you are trading or identifying opportunities where the reward is greater than the risk, and that should be your average approach. You need to have a sense of what is your maximum drawdown, how much can you tolerate, because that impacts your mindset. If you are stressed or under pressure, you're not going to perform as well. And ironically, the smaller our drawdowns, the better we are, or the more emotionally calm we are, which makes us able to perform better going forward. When the hole gets bigger, we become more stressed and more under pressure, and we make our decision-making skills get worse. And so we're actually more likely, the more we get out of control, the worse it's likely to get, or the harder it is to get out of that hole. So you need to also be conscious of your emotional state while you're trading. The journal can be incredibly helpful for that. Journal, it's not about, we're guys and sometimes being emotional. Obviously, there's female traders out there as well, and there should be more female traders while I'm on that. But for guys as well, it's quite hard to put your emotions down on paper, but it's for you, right? It's personal. You've got to keep track of how you feel. Are you angry? Do you want to fight the market? Are you calm? You need to be conscious of that, because the best thing for you is to try to always work towards being in a calm, neutral state. Doesn't matter how you want to feel. You've got to just keep yourself there. And also you want to know, did you follow your plan? Because do you trust yourself? Do you trust yourself? It's like if you're going to go on a diet and you say, I'm going to do everything I'm supposed to do tomorrow. And if you betray yourself, if you lie to yourself and you don't do that, the next time you say that, you're not going to trust yourself. You won't even believe yourself. So did you follow your plan or not? So there's quite a few things that you want to track, because your growth as a trader is in different areas, not just technical skills, but emotional skills, psychological skills, risk management skills, money management skills, all kinds of different areas where you can develop. Yeah.
Oh, I can feel that. Today is the first day of my new diet, so I can perfectly feel what you're saying, sir. So, sir, I'll be honest with you. To me, sometimes choosing a strategy feels like Tinder. You're wondering, maybe there's a better one, so I'll keep swiping. So what's your take on strategy FOMO? How do you stay loyal to your method when everyone around you is actually, posting screenshots of some new killer strategy?
That is, it's completely true. It's ridiculous. And actually, even when I got started before social media, the first program I went on, they always wanted to provide you and sell you more and more strategies. So that was definitely it. But you're right. Today, there's just stuff coming into your social media feed about everyone kind of touting their own thing. And chasing every new method is like constantly changing your golf swing mid-round, sort of sticking. What you need to be doing, obviously, is sticking with one thing long enough to understand its edge and its flaws, not just what enables it, but also what weakens it. And people don't often think about the market conditions that will support that strategy. It isn't just about which strategy for which conditions, but what kind of market conditions does your strategy helps your strategy. And there is no perfect strategy. There are definitely better strategies and worse strategies, but there is no perfect one. So traders need to know which market conditions will their strategy work in. Now, as I said earlier, for me, it was discovering that it wasn't about trading a particular instrument or a particular time frame, that it was trading market conditions. Once I find the market conditions, I can trade from the 1 minute up to the weekly. I can trade any market. And so for me personally, that becomes the backbone of everything I do. So now when I look at strategies, the first question I want to know is, are they trend-based? Is it a trend-based strategy? And then usually it becomes, and then once I have that, I'm happy. So it has to also demonstrate to me for sure in terms of statistics that once I understand it, that if I apply it, it's going to work. So, yeah.
All right, let's
Mastery
change topics.
Sorry, I was going to say, mastery is boring. It requires patience and I don't want to say discipline. It just requires patience and effort.
Sure.
But that's a good thing.
Absolutely. Sometimes it feels like the era of singularity is upon us. So let's fantasize a bit again. If you could download one core idea about strategy into every new trader's brain, what would it be?
Consistency beats cleverness. A mediocre strategy applied with discipline will outperform a genius system applied inconsistently or randomly. So consistency is what actually most people ultimately want. They also want to be able to predict, if your account is up so many percent one day and then down the next and the swings are wild, it becomes very emotionally turbulent and very hard for you to feel like you can plan your life going forwards. But if your results and your processes and how you perform are very consistent, you'll be a happier individual, which makes you trade better. And it also allows you to feel like your life and your trading is under your control. So consistency, absolutely.
All right. Let's talk about the elephant in about the robot in the room, AI in trading. I know you teach traders how to use it in your AI Trader Masterclass. So let's open that up a bit.
Okay. What would you like? I mean, I was going to say.
Right. What's the most impressive thing you've seen an AI trading system do? Something that made you pause and go, damn, I wouldn't have caught that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and the scary thing is I think we're just scratching the tip of the iceberg. So one of the things that I'm very surprised, but happily surprised with, is that AIs are very good at visual recognition. They really are good at visual recognition. Show them a photograph and they'll describe what they're seeing in it. Down to even emotions in a human's face, they can read that very well. So pattern recognition on that is very good. I've seen an AI that identified a series of setups across uncorrelated markets. So that blows my mind, where it can look for connections between markets that you wouldn't think are related. That I think is just because I just don't think that I have the brain capacity to be able to do that, right? That's like spinning 10 plates at the same time. And these are markets that had nearly identical volume on price behavior before major reversals, and I just never noticed the connection. So the pattern recognition on a scale is something that AI can do better than humans, and they can often identify patterns through the noise, whether it's behavioral patterns, whether it's stuff that just become incredibly good at looking at large data sets and identifying things, which is mind-blowing.
I believe that you once said that AI could replace 90% of retail strategies. So what are the 10% that will still matter in, let's say, 5 or 10 years from now?
The markets, that's a great question. The markets are still growing and expanding, and we've got cryptocurrencies, and I think we'll have more markets that will continue to grow. I think that human strategies that rely on a deep fundamental understanding, because it becomes a time-based thing. So, for example, Warren Buffett's been in the market for 70 years, and so he's seen things that don't occur very often. And so he's got a much bigger picture that comes with time. That's the benefit. So human strategies that rely on a deep fundamental understanding, narrative anticipation, macro context integration, psychological edge, maybe contrarian plays during fear. So in other words, being conscious of that as a human, but you might not detect it as an AI. And niche strategies in illiquid markets, maybe where AI data is limited, meaning AI doesn't really have access to it and can't really make informed decisions on it. So I think that will make a big impact. I'm very curious to see where else it's going to expand, because there are so many people that have their own little corner of finance where they are fiddling with stuff that it's maybe even impossible to predict all the areas where we'll see AI integrated. But you've got to be excited about it. I mean, aside from the climate sort of implications of water usage and for all the production centers, you've got to be excited. It's fascinating, amazing.
All right, but where do you think the human edge still matters? I mean, even in an AI-dominated landscape, is it, I don't know, timing? Is it risk-taking? Maybe it's knowing when not to trust the machine.
So, even before AIs, when we were with algos, right? So we've got all these algorithms trading a lot. One of the things that they're particularly good at is they can trade noise very well, and people can't really trade noise well. But whenever you try to develop an algorithm to trade trends, humans are so good at recognizing smooth flowing trends and trading them. And algos struggle because weren't able to recognize it visually. It would have to tick a number of boxes, and then that could also include, so you spend almost more time trying to get the algo to not take bad trades. So the human edge for me is very much about knowing when not to trade. And I think that is a big part of where they would do incredibly well. Handling uncertainty would be something which is almost like fuzzy logic, which could work very well in it for us. Adapting to breaking news or regime shifts could be a big thing, because there's a lot of that kind of stuff, global uncertainty at the moment. And then finally, emotional control and patience, all of the above kind of, I think, work together like that. And that I'm not really sure how they would exist in an AI format. So I think that would give us an edge.
How do you personally balance between trusting the model and trusting your gut?
So going back to boot camp in the army, when you did your service when you were younger, they always try to break you down, because they can't have soldiers running away from gunfire and explosions and stuff. So they usually will break you down so that they can rebuild your instincts. And that's really what has to happen. And the same in traders. You've got to replace your instinct is just the sum of your experience. And so if you don't have any experience in that area, your body tends to access your genetic, like your instincts that come with you from birth, right? That all humans have, fear or fight or flight kind of things. So what you need to do is you need to replace that. And that's why I say it's a visual pattern game. If you keep a record of your trades, what you're doing is you're feeding you're replacing your instincts with data. And when it has the data and it has the experience, your instincts reshape and they become much better. So in the beginning, you just misread everything. And our basic instincts, our natural instincts in trading right out the gate are so bad. That predominantly is why so many people without training or education don't do so well. Once they start getting training and educated, they start to do stuff. Then they start to build experience that's actually valuable. And their instincts start to then reshape off that experience. And then the instincts start to become valid. So all of a sudden you'll be trading and you have a good feeling about a trade. And that's because your brain now recognizes that there's 5 or 6 things there that are validating your trade idea. Yeah. So very cool. But I think, sorry, as well, just to say, so your gut is earned through experience. It's not random.
Sure.
I like to build trust in models through backtesting, but if something feels off, maybe the market structure's changed, then I'll sort of step back. The model is kind of a tool, it's not the boss. So yeah, but very cool.
All right, let's pretend that I'm an AI curious trader. What's the first step you'd recommend for blending AI into my workflow without digging too deep, of course?
Yeah. I'd start with automation light. So like you said, a very light version, maybe some journaling tools, some of the psychology feedback you can get from AI is actually really helpful. And because it feels private, you can say things that you might not want to confess to another human being, but you would say it to that. And you can get some really constructive feedback on that, can help you explain maybe why you self-sabotage, or maybe why you revenge trade or do various things. But I think, journaling tools, maybe chart pattern scanners, that's a great, relatively easy thing to do that will help you find setups that have a good probability of making money. And it makes it slightly less emotional, and it has a proven track record. Maybe trade logs as well, things that will, you'll have a digital trade log, and it can give you some feedback on that, spot patterns in your results that you wouldn't see. That's where they can make a big difference. And I wouldn't dive into machine learning until you've automated the basics. You need to dip your toe in the water. And I think there's so much that I've already mentioned where it's very rewarding without being too complicated.
Can you walk us through a trade that's completely you? Something so in sync with your style that it's like your signature on the chart.
So, as I said, I like a very nice, smooth, flowing trend. Now, on my charts, it's relatively clean. I just have a couple of moving averages, nothing too complicated, simple exponential 10, 20, and 50. And that's really just to help confirm the trend and price action is flowing smoothly, helps look for nice locations and entries. And then I'll use a momentum indicator for divergence or convergence. So I'm happy with the MACD, but RSI, stochastics, any of those will work. And it's literally just that. So for me, a typical trade would be either a very nice consolidation breakout and a retest, maybe an ascending or descending triangle. I really like those because if you combine those, they have a very high probability. They're a trend continuation pattern. They have a very high probability of making more than 3-1 or 3-1 at least. And my second option would be just when there's a nice flowing trend, whether it's in an index like the S&P, can be amazing, where, on the 15 minutes or even up on the daily, and you can just see how price is just continually interacting with the moving averages. For me, I love those because they're very reliable and cyclical and predictable. And the reward to risk is usually in our favor or in my favor. So, yeah.
Robots, humans, who cares as long as the signals are right. Sabio traders get access to our private Telegram channel where we drop daily market insights, trade ideas, and momentum signals straight from our top analysts. So go check it out. Is there a strategy that you actually respect but never use because you know deep down it would never work for you personally?
So early on in my first couple of years, there was another guy, Rob, who was a big fan of range trading, but he would love to do range like on the weekly where it hit a key level, and he knew that it had days or maybe weeks worth of traveling, and he used to like to be able to get a very tight entry and a stop loss. And so then the upside potential or the profit reward potential on that was 10-1 or something. And I remember for months going over that stuff and getting very excited about it and doing it. And it was incredibly powerful, but it never quite fit. Like if it was a piece of clothing, I got it, I understood it, but I didn't really enjoy it. And then I found the trend trading and I was like, this feels better for me. I feel like I'm going with the market, and I preferred it. So because there was a certain amount of patience required for what he did, where the market could sit at a key level for days or weeks while it decided whether it was going to reverse or not. And he had the temperament for that. Just while I'm talking to you, I'm just figuring out why that was. And I absolutely respected it. It was a good system, but I didn't really enjoy it. So I found something that fit me better.
All right, let's take a look back. Has your approach become simpler or more complex over time?
So simpler, absolutely, for sure. It's a very funny thing. It's almost like the journey. You have to go on the journey to experience what doesn't work and then come back down to what just keeping it simple. But it does seem to me that doing the basic stuff very well is really the way to go. The solution is not in complexity. And I think most people make that mistake. They go, look, it can't be simple, because if it was simple, everyone would do it. But then everybody makes that same mistake. So everybody just skips the basics and tries to look for more complex stuff. And then eventually you come back to, you know what, I was overcomplicating it. Simple works very well. And absolutely. So it is a rite of passage in a way. You kind of start by adding tools, and then eventually you start by removing them until you have less and less on your charts. And it's a reward for all the time and effort you put in.
You know, sir, it's a bit off topic, but I can't help noticing there's a tiny little figure on the top shelf that looks exactly like you with the silver fox hair. Is that you in the shape of a toy?
It's supposed to be. It was actually meant to be a Christmas gift from another business partner to me. But they complained and said that the face was too generic, so they did. So they picked the one that looked like me. They submitted a photograph, and then when it arrived, they said to me, "No, it doesn't really look like you, but yes, that is what it's supposed to be."
Yeah, that looks very sweet, sir. So, why Sabio? What was the initial spark, the moment that you thought, "Oh, these are my people"?
So, you know, it's a great question, sorry, because they put so much effort into getting me to come on board. It wasn't a random thing where they were just looking for people. They were very selective and very picky. They genuinely, quality is a big thing for them. You know, quality is a huge thing for them. So it's also rare, I think, to find a platform that puts user experience first. There's no ego, there's no fluff, just sort of a real attempt to make the trader's life easier, which resonates with me. And yeah, I feel for them, the quality is a very big thing. In fact, I haven't encountered that. It just isn't really it's not really a characteristic of anyone else out there. So it's inspiring. It's nice. I want to be part of something different and something better.
Yeah, may I ask you, what's that one thing that Sabio is doing differently that makes you proud to be part of?
They are very hungry to give their customers more, like good quality stuff. You know, they listen, they engage. Most platforms kind of talk at you. Sabio is building these tools traders actually want. It's not just marketing, it's genuine product evolution. I've got a contact who's my daily contact and who constantly wants to know, what can we do better? What can we do more? You know, how can we make this, add more depth to what we do, right? So in terms of resources, skills development, you know what it is? They come across like they want to be here in 50 years' time, whatever version they're in, but that's where they want to be. It's not a fly-by-night kind of passing thing. This is a very serious undertaking for them. And almost everything that I've listed now is not something that I've encountered, is not something you will encounter anywhere else, really.
All right, let's talk about the things that traders don't always post about. When was the last time you felt genuinely humbled by the markets?
So, I mean, April and May this year were just crazy because there was a lot of tariff stuff and it kind of paralyzed all the markets, not just currencies. It paralyzed everything. Gold was maybe one of the ones that just continued to move throughout that. And when something like that happens, usually it's only temporary. And so you just kind of push through it. You're like, if the markets aren't moving, we wait till they do. And it happened for about 2 months straight, maybe even longer, maybe more like 12 weeks, where the markets would try to get going again and then fail. And every time they tried to get going, I'd be in there. And then they would pull back again. And so I had a much longer and higher number of losing trades than I've had in years. And that always throws you when something like that happens. And you really have to kind of step back. So after a while, you just become, you don't want to start to suffer and get fearful and get scared. But that kind of thing always happens because in a way, what we're doing is not unlike a professional sport. You know, we're engaging with an opponent. And after you have unusually like longer than, you have a losing streak that's longer than something you've had in a while, it makes you think, am I losing my skill? Am I losing my touch? What's happening? But then it became very clear that once enough time has passed, you realize it's not you, it's the market. And then you have to remind yourself, okay, I'm all right, it's not me. And then actually, thankfully, after that, it was an incredible winning streak. But again, I think the key thing here is you just have to constantly be reminded that there's no such thing as a guaranteed, it's not guaranteed. And you always have to bring your A game.
Mhm.
And if you do that, at least then you're doing the right thing. And then it's a question of, okay, patience and discipline, I think.
You know,
Every time I get a perfect setup and it still fails, like a high probability setup and it still fails, I think that reminder that probabilities aren't certainties. Nothing is guaranteed. And that's a tricky
Sure.
thing to do, right? You want to win as often as possible, but it's not guaranteed. And that's why I think sports is a good comparison, because in sports, we know you can win and lose. We know that. But we also know that, the more you practice, the better your technique, the more you're going to win.
There's a bit of a, personal question. Have you
Sure.
ever had a trade or, I know, a period that actually changed you? Like something in your character?
So I don't know if this is the best response for this, but I used to, when early on in the day, I was trading next to a younger guy who was on the same journey. And we would talk about trade ideas together, and we would go off and trade them. And after some time had passed, 6 months had passed, he said to me, wow, it's been a great year. And he had grown his account by 160%. Like, he'd done incredibly well for that period of time. And what had happened with me was every time I traded well, then I would take a punt. So a punt means that I would take a play trade. I would trade the news, or I'd place a trade just without any real reasoning behind it. And I would always tell myself, I would always say, don't worry, you're still learning, you're still a beginner trader, you will mature, you will settle into becoming a serious trader. Like, everyone's doing it, it's just normal. And when he 6 months later said to me, I had an amazing time, amazing year, my account's grown, how have you done? My account was in the same place. It hadn't changed at all. It had gone up and then down, and every time I made money, then I would take a play trade. I'd be like betting on horses or just a gamble trade. And then when my account would go down, I would stop misbehaving and I would build it back up again. And so if he hadn't asked me that actual question, I wouldn't have stopped and gone, my account hasn't changed, which led to the next question, which was, when was I actually going to settle down? When was I going to stop messing around? When was I going to become a serious trader? And the next part of this, and so that was obviously a big wake-up call. That was like, you've really got to knuckle down, and you've got to do this. Why are you messing around? Which actually led to another deeper psychological thing, which was, it turned out that I was doing that so that I could always say, well, I was always giving myself an out. I was always going, well, if you just knuckle down, you can make money. So you can do it. And then I would mess around. But actually, the scary thing was that, what if I had to stop messing around and really try and make money, and then I failed? Then what does it mean? I have to go find a new job or a career. And I was terrified of the answer to that question. That's really what had happened. So anyway, it was just funny how your brain does all that. But that really did. I was never the same really after that. I had to realize, okay, I've got to commit to this and make it work. And however it goes, I've just got to make it do that. And so that made me, so that's a big part of what happened. Yeah.
All right, let's get back to that comparison between your younger self and the trader that you've become now. What's that something that you used to chase in trading success that now feels like a distraction or illusion? I don't know, maybe money, maybe fame, maybe the perfect system.
So yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the things that make me happy now, you can't really buy with money. And obviously, I'm older as well, so it's 15 years later. So I was like 30s, and I'm late. I'm just turned 50. So it's a different thing. And then you realize that moments matter more than things. Absolutely, which is weird, because you start the whole journey trying to develop skills that will give you things, that will give you the money to buy things. And then after a while you're doing it, you're working really, really hard, and you do start to make a bit of money. And then you realize you don't really kind of want the things as much as you did, which is a very strange kind of thing. But I think at the end of the day, you realize what you want is peace. So you want peace, meaning you don't want to lie awake at night stressing about things if you can do that. And so, yes, if I had to go back to my younger self, I remember having this vision board. I mean, I was trying everything back then, but I had this vision board, which was all these photographs of all these things that I wanted to do. And I look back, and I've done all of them, but then there was nothing beyond that. So in other words, there were things like go skydiving or scuba diving and be on a yacht in the Mediterranean and all these very fancy, cool ideas, a bit like a James Bond, Thomas Crown Affair type of idea. And I've managed to do all of those in bits and pieces. But also I realize now that's not a lifestyle. That's not something you can do all the time. So it's funny, nobody's ever asked me that question before, but yeah, it's a tricky thing. So I think to try and sum up, I would say that you're a work in progress, and what you want might change over time. So in terms of trading, you always want consistency, because once you've got that under control, then you can plan your life the way you want. So I don't know if that really answers the question properly, but
no, that's great.
So.
If you're currently swiping through strategies like it's Tinder, maybe it's time to stop guessing and start studying. Check out this Sabio Academy. Every course is built by a real trader with a proven track record, not some recycled theory. And yes, the strategies are included. We've got blueprints that actually work in live markets. So if you're done with strategy FOMO and ready to find your fit, try Sabio Academy and find your perfect strategy match. No. So let's zoom out. How has your relationship with money actually evolved since you started trading? What did it mean to you then, and what does it mean to you now?
So it meant freedom in many ways, because freedom to travel, freedom from debts. If you've ever had debts, it's just crushing. And yes, it meant being able to have a holiday and go see your family if they're in other parts of the world. So it was freedom from routine as well. That was a big thing as well. Freedom of routine. If I want to go away this weekend, I can just go do that. So that was a big part of it. Opportunity, of course. And I think now it's like I said, in the beginning you really want to live your best life. And then as you get older, you realize what you really would like to do is improve the quality of the lives of the people around you. So then it's not just about you anymore, right? It's about the people you care about. Because if you care about people and you're happy and they're not happy, you're not going to be happy. So suddenly there's a not a bubble, but there's a sphere around you. It's not just you, it expands. So being able to go see my family and spend time with them, or go away with my wife, to do that kind of stuff and go somewhere nice, somewhere quaint, maybe Spain, maybe somewhere fancy, maybe Japan. Never been to Japan before. I went a couple of months ago. It was amazing. So adventures, new experiences. That's it. And they don't have to be expensive. It wasn't really about that. You also have to get to know yourself. What makes you happy? Because that's a whole other journey. And why are you doing this if it's not ultimately to make yourself happy? So yeah,
that's wise.
With money, yeah. So money is a tool, right? You've got to have it. You need to have it. You can't pretend it doesn't matter. It's going to cause you pain if that's really the case. But it's only a means to an end, right? It's just a tool. So yeah.
All right. In your opinion, do you think most traders are actually chasing financial freedom, or maybe something else?
So freedom for sure, but absolutely based off social media, there's identity attached to it. This is who they are and the pictures and stuff like that. So validation and purpose for sure. Trading, this is a great way of thinking about it. Trading is a mirror, right? You see yourself in it. And that's possibly why it's so addictive. And absolutely, I think, they start to do that. But there are people that I've been in touch with since I got started, and we've all gotten older together, and more now. They have kids, and now time is their most important thing. So, but newer traders tend to be caught up in the wrong stuff initially, right? And maybe that's just part of the journey. Maybe that's just part of the rite of passage. So identity is a funny thing, right? How do they see themselves? How do they identify? What do they think makes them look important? Yeah. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's one of the benefits of getting older, right?
Yeah, that's fair. All right. When you're having a red day, what's your internal dialogue like? Is there a specific mental script you run?
So sometimes in the moment, you don't know if the market is changing conditions, or And so you don't really know whether you should just wait it out or whether you should actually just completely just exit for the day, like whether it's a daily thing or a temporary thing. And so in the beginning, when you're not very skilled, when you're not familiar with your strategy, or maybe your technical analysis isn't that great, you don't even know if you're doing anything right or wrong. You don't know any of that stuff. But as your technical skills get better, you're better able to distinguish the differences between your skill levels and the market conditions. So in other words, you're going, hold on a second, this isn't me, this is a market thing, something funny is happening. And so you also get better at realizing that something that you don't know what yet, but something is changing the market conditions. Mm-hmm. So when I hit a red day, I already know that if I have 2 or 3 losses, this is more than normal. And then I start slowing down. Then maybe I should be looking at other markets. Maybe I should reduce my risk down. So in other words, not 1%, 0.5% or less. So in other words, is this going to be one of those days where tomorrow or the next day, I'll look back and go, this was a bad day, I did the right thing. But also, I know that the more you're caught up in something, the more emotional you're going to become and more irrational. So I want to get that under control as quickly as possible. So as soon as I start experiencing more than 3 losses, if I have 2 or 3, I start slowing down. I step back. I look at any other trades I've got in line. I start bringing my risk right down. So it doesn't matter if the rest of the day goes really well. I don't know that yet. I just want to make sure that I bring my emotions back under control and reduce my exposure. So I kind of tend to find myself putting back a bit, not saying, okay, I'm not going to trade, just rethinking everything and just going, okay, I'm going to put less money on and maybe be more selective on my trades. And one of 2 things will happen. It'll calm down and rebuild, and then I'll be back in the game, or it'll continue to be funny, and then I'll be out.
There's a favorite question of mine for today's episode. Is there someone you've never met, but you trade as if they're watching you? Like a mentor, I don't know, a critic, or an ideal version of yourself?
So the trader that there's 2 people that I always think are the best traders that I ever known of, real people, as opposed to people in a book. But like Nick McDonald, to me, was one of the best technical traders, and he had a company, Trade with Precision. So he was at Citibank in London, and then he went out to New Zealand. He lives in New Zealand. And so to me, his stuff is just the absolute best stuff I've ever seen. And I know lots of other good traders through him, but to me, it always felt like he could just read price action really well. And the way he talks about it. And he's quite firm on his way of interacting with people. And he doesn't tolerate messing around when it comes to trading. And so when I'm describing trades to people, or I'm trading in front of them, I do always feel like if he was in the room, would he frown at what I said about the analysis, or would he be like, that's good? That does happen, yeah.
All right, let's imagine that you lost all access to markets for a year. What would you do with that time?
I think I'd want to just go into the mountains. I'd either go into the mountains or I'd write, take books, just go somewhere. I'd go with a wife and the dogs and just into the bush. I think would be the best thing for sure. Just
right. And
get out of the way.
All right. And the final question, the final one is here. If this were the last time you could speak to the trading world, what's the one mindset shift or truth you'd want to upload to their minds?
Stop asking, does this work? And start asking, does this work for me? And I think, in other words, the fit should be greater than the performance.
That's very, very thought-provoking. Wow, that was great, sir. Thank you. Thank you for your time, and thank you for all of those amazing insights. We're wishing you the great success on your journey with Sabio, and thank you once again, and have a great evening, sir.
Thank you so much. Again, it was a pleasure, and any other way I can help, or any other time you'd like to have a chat with me, I'm always here. Thank you very much.
It's great, Ned. Thank you, sir. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Prop Chat. Ultimate insights of trading with Sabio.
So, if this episode gave you something to think about, or even made you rethink your strategy, do us a favor. hit subscribe, drop a like, share this episode with someone who needs to hear it, and don't forget, we're on TikTok, Instagram, and all the usual spots. Follow Sabio Trade for more trader stories and daily tips from the world of prop trading. And by the way, it's a great day for trading. Just think about it. See you very soon.